Picture a plane the size of a hotel. Not a metaphor, an actual flying structure with bedrooms, a boardroom, and enough range to cross continents without touching down once. Now picture that plane belonging to one of the most powerful men on earth, Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, the man steering the world's largest oil exporter into a new era of skyscrapers, sports deals, and mega projects. When he travels, he doesn't fly commercial. He doesn't even fly like most billionaires. He flies an aircraft built on the bones of the Boeing 747, the same jumbo jet that once carried 400 tourists across the Atlantic, gutted and rebuilt into a private palace with wings. In the next few minutes, we're going deep into that world, not just one jet, but the entire ecosystem of Saudi royal aviation. How these aircraft are bought, how they're transformed, what it actually costs to own something like this, and why, for a man like Mohammed bin Salman, a plane is never just a plane. It's a projection of power. Let's get into it. To understand why Saudi Arabia's ruling family gravitates toward aircraft, like the Boeing 747-8 and its predecessors, you have to understand the job description that comes with the role. Mohammed bin Salman isn't just a head of government. As Crown Prince, he travels with a footprint that a normal head of state doesn't. Bodyguards, ministers, medical staff, communications teams, sometimes extended family, a typical private jet, even an ultra-long-range one like a Gulfstream G650 or a Bombardier Global 7500, seats maybe 15 to 19 people in real comfort. That's a rounding error compared to what a state visit requires. This is the same logic that put the President of the United States on a modified 747. Air Force One is, at its core, a Boeing 747-200B stuffed with defensive countermeasures, secure communications, and a flying command center. Saudi Arabia, along with Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Oman, Morocco, and a handful of other governments, has followed a similar playbook for decades. Take the largest airframe Boeing makes available for private conversion, and turn it into a sovereign asset that can carry an entire delegation, feed them, house them, and keep them connected to the outside world at 40,000 feet. So when people describe a Saudi royal jet as the world's most expensive plane, they're not talking about a rich man's toy in the way a hedge fund manager buys a yacht. They're talking about mobile sovereignty, a piece of the state that happens to have wings. The specific aircraft type most associated with the most lavish end of Gulf Royal Aviation is the Boeing business jet 747-8I, the private, VIP converted version of the last and largest 747 model Boeing ever built. Some numbers to put this in perspective. The standard commercial 747-8 was designed to carry over 400 passengers. In VIP configuration, that number drops to somewhere around 100 people. Not because the plane got smaller, but because every square foot that would have held economy seating gets reallocated to space. Private suites, a dining room, a majlis-style lounge for receiving guests, sometimes a boardroom for meetings that can't wait until landing. The range is enormous, reportedly in the neighborhood of 7,700 nautical miles, enough to fly non-stop between almost any two major cities on Earth without a refueling stop. Cruising speed sits around 567 miles per hour, putting it roughly on par with, or faster than, most commercial airliners. And then there's the price. Boeing's own list price for a green 747-8I, meaning the bare airframe, with no interior installed at all, has been reported in the range of $367 to $403 million. That's before a single seat, wall panel, or light fixture goes in. The interior build-out, handled by elite completion centers like Lufthansa Technik in Germany or Greenpoint Technologies in the United States, can add anywhere from $25 million to well over $200 million depending on the level of customization. Add it all up, and estimates for a fully finished 747-8I in VIP configuration routinely land between $400 million and $600 million, with some ultra-customized examples reportedly pushing past that. For context on just how rare this class of aircraft is, Boeing has delivered only a handful of 747-8I units in the VIP configuration since the program began, making each one, in aviation terms, closer to a bespoke yacht than a mass-produced vehicle. This is the part that turns a plane into a story. The interior, publicly available renderings and reporting on 747-8I VIP conversions, done for various Gulf state and royal clients over the years, describe cabins built less like an airplane and more like a boutique hotel that happens to be pressurized and airborne. Typical features reported across these Ultra VP 747 conversions include a master suite with a private bedroom and en-suite bathroom, sometimes with a shower, which on an aircraft is itself a significant engineering feat, given weight and water pressure constraints. A formal dining room, capable of seating a dozen or more guests at a proper table, used for hosting foreign dignitaries mid-flight the same way a head of state might host them in a palace. A Majlis lounge, a design element rooted in Gulf Arab tradition, essentially a formal reception room with facing seating, used for receiving guests and conducting the kind of face-to-face diplomacy that photographs well and signals hospitality. A private office or boardroom, wired with secure communications equipment, so that affairs of state don't have to pause just because the country is 30,000 feet below. Crew quarters and additional cabins for staff and security detail, since a delegation this size needs somewhere for the people actually running the operation to rest on long-haul legs. And, in some of the most extravagant reported conversions across this aircraft class more broadly, not limited to any one country, amenities have included home theaters, gyms, and in at least one widely reported case involving a different Gulf royal family, gold-finished fixtures throughout the cabin. It's worth being precise here. Exact interior details of any specific Saudi royal aircraft are not something the Saudi government publishes, and for obvious security reasons, governments that operate these planes tend to keep cabin layouts, security features, and even tail numbers out of the public record. What we do know comes from aviation industry, reporting on the broader class of aircraft, satellite spotting by aviation enthusiasts, and occasional leaks from completion centers. Not from official confirmation. Even the process of building one of these interiors is its own kind of spectacle. Completion centers like Lufthansa Technik don't just install furniture, they engineer entire climate systems, custom lighting rigs that mimic natural daylight cycles to help passengers adjust across time zones, and soundproofing designed to make a jet engine feel as quiet as a hotel hallway. Every material has to be certified for weight and fire safety before it's allowed anywhere near the cabin, which means even something as simple as a marble-look countertop is usually a light, white composite engineered to look like stone without adding the tonnage of actual stone. It's a reminder that behind every luxurious render of a VIP cabin is a small army of aerospace engineers solving problems that a five-star hotel designer never has to think about. To talk about the price tag honestly, you have to zoom out to what MBS actually controls. As Crown Prince and Prime Minister, Mohammed bin Salman sits at the center of Saudi Arabia's state wealth. Most visibly through the Public Investment Fund, the country's sovereign wealth fund, which manages hundreds of billions of dollars in assets, and has become one of the most aggressive investors on the planet, taking stakes in everything from video game publishers to English Premier League football clubs to Formula One adjacent ventures like the LIV Golf Project. That matters for understanding the jet, because in absolute monarchies and state-driven economies like Saudi Arabia's, the line between state asset and personal asset is often intentionally blurry. A royal aircraft used to fly the Crown Prince on official state business is functionally a government asset, procured, maintained, and flown by state resources, even if, in practice, it exists largely for one person's use and comfort. This is different from how a Western billionaire buys a plane. Someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk buys an aircraft with personal or corporate wealth, subject to a paper trail, tax filings, and in some cases public disclosure. A Gulf monarchy's royal aircraft fleet doesn't work that way. It's procured the way a country buys a naval vessel, quietly, through state channels, with no obligation to itemize the cost for the public. That opacity is exactly why so much of what circulates online about the Crown Prince's jet, specific price tags, specific gold-plated fixtures, specific tail numbers, should be read with some skepticism. Some of it traces back to solid aviation journalism. A lot of it traces back to blogs and video scripts, recycling the same unverified numbers from each other. The honest version of this story is, we know the class of aircraft, we know the rough cost of that class of aircraft, and we know these planes exist to serve a head of state's needs. But a fully itemized, confirmed receipt for one specific jet doesn't exist in the public record. Saudi Arabia isn't alone in this category, and the comparisons are part of what makes the story compelling. The Sultan of Brunei, Hassan al-Bolkiah, has long been associated with a Boeing 747-430 reportedly worth, in the neighborhood of $323 million, featuring an interior finished with substantial gold detailing. Hong Kong billionaire Joseph Lau reportedly owns a Boeing 747-8 VIP, valued around $367 million for the airframe alone, with reported additional spending north of $200 million on amenities including guest rooms, a bar, a gym, and a full boardroom. Russian billionaire Alisher Usmanov has been linked to an Airbus A340-300, valued at roughly $400 million, with reported interior costs of $170 million covering multiple lounges, a dining room, and several bathrooms and bedrooms. Qatar's royal family made headlines in 2018 when a private jumbo jet, reportedly valued around $500 million, was gifted to the president of Turkey, illustrating just how these aircraft function as much as diplomatic instruments as personal transport. And of course, there's Air Force One itself, not for sale, not comparable in market terms, but the benchmark every other head of state aircraft gets measured against, precisely because it was the original blueprint for turning a jumbo jet into a flying seat of government. Set against that field, a Saudi Royal 747-8i sits comfortably at the top end of the world's most expensive aircraft, not because it's uniquely more extravagant than its rivals, but because it belongs to the same small, secretive club of governments and billionaires willing to spend 9 figures just to move a delegation from one country to another, in total comfort and total control. Step back from the gold fixtures and the dining rooms for a second, because the real story here isn't the thread count on the bed sheets. It's what the aircraft represents. Mohammed bin Salman has spent the last several years repositioning Saudi Arabia on the world stage. Vision 2030, the trillion-dollar futuristic city project NEOM, the public investment fund's global shopping spree, the country's push into sports, entertainment, and tourism as it tries to wean its economy off oil dependency. Every one of those initiatives is, in part, a branding exercise, convincing the world that Saudi Arabia is a modern, dynamic global power, not just an oil kingdom. A private jumbo jet plays directly into that branding. It's not subtle, and it's not meant to be. When a head of state steps off a plane with a boardroom, a majlis, and a master suite built into the fuselage, the message lands before a single word of diplomacy is spoken. This is a country, and a leader, operating at the absolute top tier of global power and resources. It's the same instinct that puts solid gold fixtures in the Sultan of Brunei's cabin, or a gifted jumbo jet in the middle of Turkish-Qatari diplomacy. The aircraft is the message. So what's the real answer to how expensive Mohammed bin Salman's private jet actually is? The honest answer is, expensive enough to sit in the same rarefied category as the handful of aircraft on Earth that cost more than most companies are worth. Likely somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars, once the airframe and the interior are both counted, based on what similar Gulf State and Royal 747-8i conversions have cost. But the exact figure, the exact features, and the exact aircraft are things Saudi Arabia keeps close, the way most nations keep the specifics of their head of state transport close, for the same reasons of security and statecraft that keep Air Force One's finer details classified too. What we can say with confidence is this: in an age when Saudi Arabia is trying to rewrite its global image one mega project at a time, the Crown Prince's aircraft isn't just how he gets from Riyadh to Washington or Davos or London. It's a 400-ton argument, flying at cruising altitude, that the kingdom belongs at the very top of the table. And whether you find that inspiring, excessive, or somewhere in between, it's hard to look away from a plane like that. Thanks for watching. If you want more inside looks at how the world's most powerful people actually live, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started.